The red tally light snapped on and the room inhaled. Denzel didn't blink. He leaned toward the mic, voice low enough to make every head tip forward. "You turned America into a brand," he said, then let the pause slice the air, "and sold it cheap." Gasps rolled through the studio like wind through flags. Trump stood at his lectern, chin high, smile tight, ready to swat a line and pivot to applause. But Denzel didn't give him runway. "A nation isn't a hat, a slogan, or a merch drop," he continued, steady, surgical. "It's factories at dawn, teachers grading papers at midnight, veterans counting pills at the kitchen table. It's people. You keep stamping your name on the front and charging the back to them. Cameras hunted faces, the stunned producer in the wings, the firefighter in row 3, the retiree clutching a folded program." Trump's mic cracked alive. "America's never been stronger," he said, pointing. "Ratings prove it." Laughter flickered. Denzel didn't flinch. "Ratings are a mirror," he replied. "Leadership is a window. You keep looking at yourself while the country's trying to look out." A drum of knuckles on a chair back, impatient, anxious. Denzel's gaze swept the audience like a lighthouse beam. "When a brand fails, you repackage. When a country hurts, you repair. You don't sell grief like it's a clearance rack." He raised a single page, numbers, not slogans. "Foreclosures up. Medical debt up. Anger, up. The only thing down is the price of our promises." Trump leaned in, voice hotter. "You're a great actor, Denzel. Acting, not governing." Denzel allowed the faintest smile, weary and razor-thin. "I learned to hit my marks," he said, eyes locked on him. "You learned to sell the set." The audience went still. Somewhere, a phone buzzed and stopped. "Tonight isn't about your legend," Denzel finished. "It's about our bill. And sir, America's tired of paying for your logo." The light above camera 2 blinked. The moderator swallowed. The next question died on his lips. Every person in the room felt it, the pivot point, the crack in the mask, the story asking to be told. Trump's face flushed, the kind of red that didn't belong to confidence but to heat rising under pressure. He jabbed a finger toward Denzel. "Cheap? I built luxury, the best, the classiest. People lined up to be part of what I created. America wants winners, and I made winning a habit." The studio lights glared off his cufflinks, but his words hit like dull brass instead of gold. Denzel leaned back, folding his arms, and waited. The pause was deliberate, an actor's pause, but this wasn't theater. It was a public autopsy of truth. "You keep saying, 'I built,'" he said finally. "What you built was a billboard. Flash, glitter, glass. And behind it? Contractors stiffed. Workers chasing checks. Communities gutted while you bragged about margins. That's not winning. That's stripping America for parts." The audience shifted, restless energy spilling over. A woman in the second row whispered, "He's right," loud enough for the cameras to catch. Trump's head snapped toward the murmur, then back to Denzel. "You don't know business," Trump shot back. "You play pretend. I live reality." Denzel's voice cut sharper. "Reality? Reality is families who bought into the promise and got foreclosure notices. Reality is vets who fought wars under your flag, only to see you turn their sacrifice into a brand logo. You turned patriotism into product placement." Gasps. Phones lifted, live stream comments exploding with fire emojis and all-caps cheers. Trump's hand slammed the podium. "No one loves this country more than me. No one." His voice cracked into a shout. Denzel stepped forward, closer to the edge of the stage. His silhouette against the lights was calm, grounded, immovable. "Love of country isn't shouting it louder. Love is giving more than you take. And all you've done is take respect, trust, dignity. America isn't your brand to sell, it's our soul to defend." The moderator raised a hand, but no one looked his way. The duel was locked in. Two men, two visions, one truth clawing its way to the surface. The crowd leaned in, hungry for the next blow. Trump straightened his tie, forcing a smirk that looked more like armor than confidence. You think you're some kind of prophet, Denzel? You act tough on TV, but when the cameras go off, I'm still the one people want leading this country. You're just reading lines, I write history. The crowd murmured, some chuckling, others booing. The tension was a live wire running through the room. Denzel tilted his head, his eyes steady. History? He let the word linger, heavy as lead. History will remember the con. The lawsuits, the bankruptcies, the silence checks. You didn't write history, Trump, you wrote invoices you never paid. A ripple of applause burst out. Trump's lips tightened, his jaw flexing. Fake news. Lies. That's what they said about me when I ran, and I still won. People know I'm a fighter. Denzel leaned forward, his voice dropping low enough that the audience hushed to hear. Fighter? Fighters take hits and keep going. Fighters defend the weak. You ducked, dodged, and hid behind lawyers. You fought for yourself and left the rest bleeding. That's not fighting, that's fleeing. Trump's face twitched. You don't understand politics. Deals, leverage, power. Power, Denzel interrupted, slicing the air with his hand, isn't how many people you can bend. Power is how many you can lift. You turned America's struggles into a stage for your ego. Veterans' graves, workers' wages, racial wounds, you used them all as props. The audience erupted again, some standing, others shouting, say it again. The camera zoomed in on Trump, whose practiced smile was cracking under the weight of the accusations. You sold America cheap, Denzel said, voice rising, and the receipts are in plain sight. Every broken promise, every family betrayed, every lie wrapped in a flag. And now you stand here and call it leadership? The moderator tried to intervene, but the roar drowned him out. Trump shook his head, muttering into the mic, pathetic actor. Denzel didn't flinch. Better an actor telling truth than a leader acting lies. The crowd exploded, cheers rattling the studio walls. Hashtags began trending in real time. Trump looked cornered, and for the first time, his silence spoke louder than his words. The moderator raised his hands, desperate to calm the storm, but the studio was beyond control. Audience members were on their feet, clapping, shouting, phones up capturing every second. The air itself vibrated with energy, like everyone knew history was unfolding right in front of them. Trump finally leaned into his mic, his voice sharp and loud. You think these people care about your little speeches, Denzel? They want jobs, safety, borders, things I gave them. You're just grandstanding for applause. Denzel let the accusation hang in the air, then stood slowly, towering over his chair with an authority no applause could fabricate. He didn't raise his voice at first, he didn't need to. Grandstanding? Let's talk about grandstanding. Putting your name in gold on buildings you didn't build. Standing in front of graves at Arlington for a photo op while mocking service in private. Bragging about jobs while factories closed on your watch. If that's leadership, then America deserves better than your show. Gasps rolled through the crowd. Some booed, others cheered louder. Trump's hands gripped the table, knuckles white. You're twisting facts, Hollywood man. You're out of your depth here. This isn't a movie set, this is real life. Denzel's eyes narrowed, his tone rising now, raw and cutting. Real life? Real life is the builder who never got paid because you cut corners. Real life is the family evicted from a Trump property while you bragged about being rich. Real life is the voter who believed your promises only to watch you cash in on their hope. That's real life, Donald. And that's the life you sold out for cheap applause. The roar from the audience was deafening, drowning out even the moderator's desperate calls for order. A woman shouted from the back, "Tell him, Denzel." The cameras panned to Trump's face, red, tense, lips trembling with fury. Denzel slammed the moment home. You didn't just cheapen the office. You cheapened the people who trusted you. And when history remembers your empire, it won't be for strength, it'll be for the lies it was built on. The crowd erupted again, hashtags shooting like wildfire across every platform. For the first time, Trump's eyes darted toward the exit, as though even he felt the walls closing in. Trump slammed his hand against the desk, the thud echoing through the studio like a gavel. You don't know what it takes to lead this country. You've never sat in the chair. You've never had the weight of the world on your shoulders. All you do is talk. His words came out half yell, half plea, the kind of shout a man uses when he feels the ground crumbling beneath him. Denzel didn't flinch. He leaned forward, eyes locked on Trump, voice steady but edged with fire. Weight of the world. You didn't carry it, you cashed it in. You turned the Oval Office into a stage, a brand, a cheap circus where your ego was the headline act. Leadership isn't about how loud you roar, it's about how much you lift others. And you? You pushed them down to stand taller yourself. The audience erupted, half cheering, half booing, the clash of voices rattling the studio rafters. Cameras zoomed in on Trump, his jaw clenched, sweat visible under the bright lights. He shot back, desperate to reclaim ground. I built wealth, I built jobs, I built America stronger than it's ever been. What have you built, huh? What's your empire, Denzel? Movies. The jab landed, but Denzel straightened, almost smiling, his tone like a blade. You built debt. You built division. You built a brand with America's name on it, and you sold it to the highest bidder. My work may be entertainment, Donald, but at least it doesn't bankrupt families or betray soldiers. At least it doesn't pretend to be salvation while stabbing people in the back. The moderator's voice cracked, trying to intervene. Gentlemen, please, but the studio wasn't listening anymore. The tension was too thick, the clash too raw. Social feeds lit up, clips already going viral. Trump leaned closer, his voice low but venomous. You think you can lecture me? You're nothing but an actor. Denzel's reply was instant, sharp, and final, and you're nothing but a conman in a suit. America deserves to know the difference. The room detonated with applause and gasps. Phones shook as people recorded the showdown, and hashtags like hashtag conman-in-chief and hashtag Denzel vs. Trump exploded online. The moderator sat frozen, caught between chaos and history, as the two men faced off under the studio lights. Trump was pacing now, red in the face, hands chopping through the air with the frantic energy of a man losing grip. Conman? You call me a conman? I'm the one who kept this country alive while the world collapsed. You sit in Hollywood, in your ivory tower, pretending you understand the struggles of the working class. You don't know sacrifice. Denzel didn't rise from his seat. He stayed anchored, calm, his body language the polar opposite of Trump's storm. That contrast alone told the audience everything, one man fighting to keep control, the other refusing to let go of the truth. Denzel's voice cut through the noise like steel. Sacrifice? Real sacrifice is burying your child who went to war because your policies sent them there for a photo op. Sacrifice is a single mother choosing between rent and medicine because you gave tax breaks to billionaires. Don't stand there and preach sacrifice when the only thing you've ever sacrificed is other people's lives to protect your profits. The crowd roared, the rawness of his words slicing straight through the room. Trump's eyes darted to the audience, searching for a safe corner, some pocket of loyalty to cling to. But even among his usual defenders, the silence was heavy. He pointed a trembling finger at Denzel, almost shouting now. You're twisting it. You don't get it. You never carried responsibility on your shoulders. Denzel finally stood, slow and deliberate, and the audience rose with him, sensing the climax. Responsibility, he repeated, voice deep and resonant. Responsibility is giving strength to the role of president, not sucking strength from it. Responsibility is building trust, not turning America into your personal brand. You never led, Donald, you performed. And every performance had one star, you. America doesn't need a showman. It needs a leader. The studio shook with a mix of cheers and gasps, phones flashing like strobe lights as the clip went viral in real time. The hashtag not a showman rocketed to the top of social platforms within minutes. Trump clenched his jaw, but for the first time all night, he had no comeback. The studio's atmosphere was boiling, yet it wasn't noise that made it heavy, it was clarity. Everyone could sense it, something inside Trump's armor had cracked. He leaned on the edge of the podium, shoulders heaving, his once commanding presence dimming under the weight of Denzel's words. For years, Trump thrived on being untouchable, the dealmaker who could twist narratives to his favor. But tonight, every trick sounded hollow. America needs a leader? Trump sneered, trying to recover, his voice straining. Well, guess what? I was that leader. Lowest unemployment, strong borders, people respected us again. You sit there preaching morality, but you don't know what it takes to run a country. Denzel didn't flinch. His gaze was steady, his tone sharper now, leaving no space for Trump to wriggle out. Strong borders? You locked children in cages. Lowest unemployment? You gutted protections so workers had no safety net. Respect? You stood on the world stage and turned allies into enemies while cozying up to dictators. You didn't build a legacy, you built a reality show, and the season finale is here. Gasps spread across the audience. Trump's lips parted, but no sound came. The line struck like a thunderbolt, exposing him not as the indestructible figure he sold himself to be, but as a man cornered by truth. The moderator, sweat beading at his temple, attempted to pivot. Gentlemen, please, let's, but the crowd drowned him out with shouts of approval, some chanting Denzel's name, others simply repeating his line like an anthem, season finale is here. Trump pounded the podium, the sound sharp but desperate. Fake news. Lies. This is all lies, he barked. Yet the more he shouted, the smaller he appeared. The myth of strength evaporated before everyone's eyes. Denzel took one step closer, lowering his voice, speaking not to Trump but to America. We are not an empire of lies. We are not a brand for sale. We are a nation, built by sacrifice, sweat, and truth. And it's time we stop confusing noise with leadership. The applause was deafening. Trump's face twisted in frustration, but his words couldn't penetrate the roar. In that moment, the balance shifted. It wasn't just a debate, it was a reckoning, and Denzel had forced the nation to watch the mask of power fall away. The roar of the crowd refused to die down. Trump's face reddened, his jaw tight as he raised his hands to silence them, but each attempt only fueled louder chants. The optics were unmistakable. A man once feared for his sharp tongue and relentless bluster was being drowned out by a wave of truth that no insult could reverse. He leaned forward, pointing at Denzel with a trembling finger. You think you're some kind of savior? You're an actor. A Hollywood puppet. What do you know about running a nation? You've never had to sit in the Oval Office, never had to face enemies, never had to make the hard calls. His voice cracked mid-sentence, the fury sounding more like pleading than commanding. Denzel didn't rush to answer. He let the silence hang, a silence that magnified Trump's desperation. Then, slowly, he stepped forward, his hand resting on the moderator's desk, eyes locked with Trump's. You're right. I never sat in the Oval Office. But leadership isn't about chairs or offices. It's about courage. It's about knowing the difference between serving yourself and serving the people. And every decision you made screamed one thing: you chose yourself. The studio erupted again. This time, the cheers weren't just noise, they were an affirmation, a release of years of pent-up frustration. Trump tried to interject, but his voice was swallowed whole. The audience had shifted. They weren't here to watch a spectacle anymore, they were here to witness accountability. Denzel raised his voice just enough to cut through the roar. You built your empire on lies, and you thought America could be run the same way. But tonight, in front of the world, those lies collapse. The truth doesn't just expose you, it replaces you. The words landed like a gavel. The image was clear. This wasn't just a debate stage anymore, it felt like a courtroom, and the verdict had been read aloud. Trump's expression hardened into silence, his hands gripping the podium so tight his knuckles whitened. For the first time in his public life, Donald Trump had nothing left to say. And America watched, transfixed, as Denzel Washington gave them not a performance, but a reckoning that would echo far beyond the studio walls. The camera panned across the studio, capturing the crowd's faces, some shouting with fists in the air, others staring wide-eyed as if they were witnessing a piece of history unfold. Social media feeds lit up in real time, hashtags exploding with Denzel's words. The moderator struggled to regain control, but the energy in the room was no longer his to manage, it belonged to the clash between truth and denial. Trump slammed his palm on the podium. This is a witch hunt. Always has been, always will be. You people, he gestured angrily toward the audience, you don't know sacrifice. You don't know the pressure I was under. I made America rich, I made it respected again. His voice grew hoarse, each phrase sounding less like conviction and more like desperation clawing for relevance. Denzel tilted his head, unimpressed. He let Trump's rant burn itself out before delivering his counterstrike. Respect, he repeated slowly, his voice calm but sharp. You confuse fear with respect. The world didn't admire you, they tolerated you. They tolerated the bluster, the chaos, the endless need to brand everything in your name. America isn't a billboard, and its people aren't customers you can con. The studio gasped. The weight of those words hung like smoke in the air. Even the cameras seemed to pause, as if focusing tighter on Trump's face to catch every twitch, every flash of panic behind his eyes. Trump leaned back, shaking his head, muttering into the microphone, "Fake news. Hollywood drama," his words fell flat. For once, the audience didn't echo him. Instead, a murmur began, low at first, then louder, building into a chant. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Denzel stood straighter, letting the chant fuel him. This is the reckoning, Donald. You can dodge reporters, you can bully politicians, but tonight you can't outrun your record. You can't hide behind a brand. This, he spread his arms toward the crowd, the cameras, the nation watching, is what accountability looks like. Trump's shoulders slumped, his famous defiance cracking into something unfamiliar, vulnerability. The man who once commanded rallies with chants now stood trapped inside one. For the audience, it wasn't just political theater, it was a turning point. The illusion of control Trump clung to was gone, shattered by a man who didn't need power to wield it, only truth spoken with unwavering conviction. The lights burned hotter than ever, but it wasn't the stage setup, it was the moment itself. The moderator had long stopped trying to control the exchange, the audience no longer looked at him, only at Denzel and Trump. Every second stretched like a drumbeat, every word destined to echo beyond the studio walls. Trump tried once more to claw back the spotlight, his voice cracking as he shouted, "You think you're the voice of America? You're just an actor. You play pretend for a living. I built towers, I made deals." Denzel cut in, sharp as a blade, "and you tore people down in the process. You stiffed workers, crushed small businesses, and left broken promises behind every tower you slapped your name on. That's not leadership, it's exploitation." The audience roared, half cheering, half booing, the chaos now a reflection of the divide in the country itself. Trump's jaw tightened, his fists clenched on the podium, but his usual retorts, "Fake news, witch hunt," sounded tired, overused, stripped of power. Denzel took a step forward, his voice steady, commanding silence from the crowd without raising it. America deserves leaders who lift people up, not brands who cash them out. You didn't make America stronger, you made it smaller, meaner, weaker. And tonight, the mask is off. The room erupted. Some jumped to their feet, clapping wildly, others sat in stunned silence, processing the raw force of Denzel's words. The chant rose again, louder than before, "Truth. Truth. Truth. Trump's face flushed red, his composure shattered. He leaned into his microphone with a sneer, but his words drowned beneath the relentless chant of the audience. For the first time, his voice wasn't the loudest in the room. Denzel turned slightly toward the cameras, his closing line clear, unshakable. History will remember this moment, not for the towers you built, but for the truth you couldn't outrun. The broadcast cut to millions of homes, phones, and feeds across America, but inside the studio, it felt as though time had stopped. Trump, once untouchable, stood cornered in silence. Denzel, calm and resolute, had delivered not just a rebuttal but a verdict. And as the credits rolled, one truth lingered in the minds of everyone watching: sometimes it only takes a single voice, unafraid and unbought, to shake an empire built on lies.